Thursday, November 7th, 2024, 12:36 a.m. I was 22, halfway through my first semester of grad school, and paying for it the way a lot of people did, by taking the shifts nobody wanted. At Bobst Library, student worker sounded official. In reality, it meant I reshelved returns, straightened tables, and made sure nobody camped out after closing. That night, I stayed late on purpose. Finals were creeping in, my thesis outline was a mess, and the quiet after midnight felt like the only time my brain stopped bouncing. I had a book cart beside me, the wheels squeaking every time I nudged it along the carpet tiles. The building lights had already shifted into night mode. Fluorescence dimmed to a tired half-brightness that made the rows look flatter and longer. Somewhere near the circulation desk, the receipt printer clicked every few minutes, spitting out end-of-day totals. It was a small sound, but it kept me grounded. The air smelled like old paper and that burnt coffee tang that came from the break room pot no one ever emptied all the way. Every once in a while, the elevator chimed and the recorded voice said, "Door closing," like it was announcing itself to an empty audience. Outside the tall lobby windows, Washington Square looked wet and dark. You couldn't hear the city much from where I was, but I could see the sheen on the pavement from earlier rain, streetlights reflected like smeared gold. I kept telling myself I'd do one more chapter section, push one more cart, then go home. I rolled through the last aisle I was assigned, tapping spines into place. The quiet was normal. Library quiet, the kind that made you lower your voice even when you were alone. It wasn't creepy yet, it was comforting. A routine. I checked my phone once, mostly out of habit. 12:36 a.m. The number looked too late to be real. I set it down again and listened to the soft, constant hum of a building that never truly slept. The closing announcement played while I was sliding a philosophy book into place. "Attention, the library is now closed. Please make your way to the exits." Normal. I didn't even look up. I'd heard it every shift. Then it played again. Same words, but a beat late, like a delayed echo. The speaker popped at the start, and the last syllable warped a little, stretched thin. My first thought was a glitch. Old system. Someone in the back office bumping a button they shouldn't. I pushed my cart forward, and that's when I saw someone still seated 2 aisles over. He was at a table near the end of the row, head down, shoulders rounded, not packing up, not moving toward the exit. The quiet around him felt too perfect, like even the building was waiting. I told myself the obvious things. He'd fallen asleep, he'd missed the announcement, he was waiting for a friend. It was November. Everyone was exhausted. I rolled the cart closer, the wheels squeaking on the carpet tiles. The moment the sound reached him, he stood. Not hurried, just smooth. Then he shifted sideways so a shelf stayed between us. That was wrong. Detail number 1. I slowed down, pretending to read a call number, and watched through the gaps. He wasn't gathering his stuff. He was tracking where I moved, correcting his position by inches. Wrong detail number 2 came from the stairwell. The push bar opened with a soft whoosh, like someone easing it gently. When it swung back, it didn't latch. It started clicking. Quiet, steady, like a fingernail tapping a desk in the dark. And then my phone did the one thing that always made me feel trapped. It lost signal in that aisle. I tried to send a text to my roommate, just a quick leaving soon, and it stuck on sending, the little circle spinning like it couldn't find a way out. Wrong, detail number 3. Concrete killed reception. Doors got old. People got weird late at night. I ran through those explanations because that's what you do when you don't want to admit you're scared. But the second announcement, the man's careful positioning, and that little clicking from the stairwell all stacked into one uncomfortable thought. This wasn't just me staying late. I was the last piece still moving in the building. I backed my cart up a few inches now. The squeak sounded huge. The man corrected with it, sliding along the far side so we stayed parallel, always a shelf between us. I wasn't walking deeper into the stacks. I aimed for the main lobby. Lights, cameras, open sight lines. The stairwell door kept clicking behind me. Click, 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 like it couldn't latch. My phone buzzed, but the screen showed no signal. I tried to text anyway. Sending, it said, and stayed that way. I cut into a cross aisle, and the man appeared in the gap ahead of me, closer now. He didn't block me. He angled his shoulders so I'd have to pass within arm's reach. I stopped so hard the cart bumped my hip. He stepped back half a pace, polite, controlled. At the lobby end, the security gate flashed red. Not a warning blink. A steady red, like it had been locked remotely. The little screen near it flickered, then went blank. The elevator chimed behind me, and the recorded voice said, "Door closing," even though I hadn't called it. Then the intercom crackled. "Student worker," a voice said. "Come to the circulation desk." A pause, then my first name. My stomach tightened. It was too specific, too confident. And paired with the dead signal in that red gate, it didn't feel like staff calling me over. It felt like someone steering. That was the moment it stopped being a collection of weird things and turned into one plan. Announcements twice. A man shadowing me behind shelves, doors, and systems changing at the right time. A voice using my name. Someone was trying to place me. I kept the cart in front of me because it was weight and leverage. I turned toward the most visible route, refusing to go near the stairwell or the isolated back rows. The man moved again, faster now, choosing a gap where he'd get a clean line. As I passed a side door, I caught a detail that made my blood run cold. A thin strip of clear tape laid over the panic bar sensor, just enough to keep it from registering. I didn't touch it. I just raised my voice loud on purpose. "Campus security," I said, like I was already on the phone. "I'm heading to the main lobby. I need someone on the cameras." I lifted my useless phone to my ear and kept walking. The cart squealed, and I pushed for light like it was the only real thing left. I was almost at the lobby corridor when the shelves to my left went quiet, in a way that didn't feel natural, like the air had been pulled out. Then he lunged, not from in front of me, from behind the shelf edge, using the row like cover. 1 second I saw nothing but book spines, and the next his arm hooked out toward me, grabbing for my shoulder. I reacted without thinking. I slammed the book cart sideways into the aisle, hard, like I was parking it across a doorway. Metal rattled. Books shifted. The cart jammed between the shelf ends and blocked the clean line he'd been building. He hit it with his body weight and the whole thing shuddered, wheels skidding on carpet tiles. Close enough that I smelled his cologne, sharp and fresh, completely wrong for a library at midnight. I didn't try to fight him. I didn't try to reason. I turned and ran. My shoes slipped once, then caught. I sprinted toward the lobby lights, toward the circulation desk glow, and the camera domes overhead. I reached the nearest emergency exit and shoved the door bar with both hands. For half a heartbeat, I thought it wouldn't work. Then the bar gave and the alarm detonated, an ugly, piercing sound that filled the lobby like a siren inside a skull. Red lights strobed, the quiet shattered. Behind me, I heard a fast step and the scrape of a shoe stopping short. I didn't look back. I ran straight into the brightest part of the lobby and ducked behind the circulation desk like it was cover. The alarm kept screaming while my hands shook against the circulation desk. A staffer came out from the back office, pale, asking what happened. I tried to explain, but it sounded unreal even to me. Campus security didn't appear instantly. It took minutes, long enough for the strobe lights to make me nauseous, long enough for me to keep expecting him to step out of the stacks. When the officers arrived, they went in with flashlights and radios. They checked the stairwell. They walked the aisles. They checked the corners I'd avoided. They didn't find him. Security walked me outside through the main lobby and stayed with me until I was on the sidewalk, under streetlight, breathing cold air like it was permission. I went home and didn't sleep. The next afternoon, I pulled up my employee card history because I needed proof. The log, loaded, clean, and official, it showed an exit swipe at 12:41 a.m. At 12:41, I was still inside Bobst, hiding behind the circulation desk. So, who left in my name? Before we get into the next story, if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next upload. And if you enjoyed these stories, please do like, comment, and share. Monday, February 10th, 2025, 1:22 a.m. I was 44, and I did contract HVAC calls for a living, which meant my phone rang at the worst hours for the most expensive buildings. That night, it was an overnight climate alarm and special collections at the Boston Public Library, the McKim Building, right on Copley Square. Rare books didn't care that it was snowing. If the humidity drifted, you got called. The streets were half plowed when I pulled up, tires hissing through slush. Somewhere out on Boylston, a snowplow scraped and sighed in slow passes, that wet metal sound you hear through closed windows. Inside the library, the air changed instantly, dry, conditioned, almost powdery in the back of my throat. The lobby smelled faintly of stone and old varnish, like the building had been sealed for decades. An after-hours guard met me at the side entrance, checked my ID, and waved me toward the staff corridor. I tapped my badge at the first card reader. Beep, green LED blink. The lock clicked open with the kind of confidence I liked. Brass door handles were cold enough to sting my palm through my glove. Past a service alcove, a floor buffer sat parked against the wall. Its charging cable looped neatly like someone had taken pride in coiling it. Farther in, old radiators ticked as they cooled and warmed in uneven pulses. Every few steps, I caught a security camera dome reflecting tiny red status lights, little pinpricks in the glass. I opened my work ticket on my phone while I walked. Room 3A, rare books, climate alarm, it read. Simple. Find the sensor, confirm the dehumidifier status, reset if needed, get out. I'd done enough overnight jobs to know the building would feel different, empty. But different didn't mean dangerous. It meant quiet. It meant I could hear my own boots on marble and the soft hum of dehumidifiers somewhere deeper in special collections, steady like a distant engine. I followed the posted arrows for staff access, one door at a time, trusting the map in my head and the green lights on the readers. The first weird thing happened before I even reached the stairwell. I refreshed my work ticket because the building Wi-Fi was spotty, and the line that said Room 3A blinked and changed to Room 3B. Same description, same alarm type, just a different room letter. I stared at it like it was a typo that would correct itself, then refreshed again. 3B, it insisted. My rational brain tried to help. Maybe the first room was a placeholder and dispatch updated it when the sensor narrowed down. Maybe 3A and 3B were adjoining spaces and the system chose the closer one. Buildings like this had closets labeled like rooms, and rooms labeled like closets. I'd seen worse. I kept walking. somewhere upstairs, a single book hit the floor. Not a crash, not a cascade, just one solid thump, followed by a dry slide, then silence so complete it made my shoulders tense. I stopped and listened. No voices, no footsteps, no second sound. Another rational explanation lined itself up. A maintenance cart nudged a stack earlier. A book shifted on a shelf and finally gave up. Old bindings did weird things in dry air. I told myself that and started moving again, but slower. At the next door, I tapped my badge. Beep. Green blink. The lock released. I stepped through, and the door behind me swung shut with a soft, patient motion, like a person closing it carefully. Then it clicked. Locked. I turned and tried the handle. Solid. The kind of lock that didn't argue. I checked the reader on my side. No panel, no way to rescan. It wasn't panic yet. It was annoyance. Some doors were one way for security. I'd come in the wrong route. Still, the timing felt off. The door hadn't slammed. It had waited until my back was to it. I pulled out my flashlight, habit more than need, and swept the beam along the corridor. The light caught dust in the air like tiny insects, and the hum of the dehumidifier seemed louder now that I knew I couldn't go back the way I came. I told myself, keep going forward. Find the security desk phone if you need it. Don't make a mystery out of a lock. The corridor opened into a wider hall with marble floors and rope stanchions. My flashlight swept the stone and caught something that made me stop. Wet footprints, one set, fresh, heel-toe prints leading toward a roped-off hallway that was supposed to be closed. They didn't smear, didn't wander, just went straight, then stopped as if the person stepped onto carpet or disappeared. I looked up at the nearest camera dome. The tiny status light that had been blinking went solid red for a beat, then turned off completely. The glass stared back at me with no glow. That was the moment my "this is just a building" feeling started to drain out. I keyed my radio. Building security, this is the HVAC contractor and special collections. My ticket changed rooms and a door locked behind me. Can you confirm where you need me? Static answered me. Then my own sentence played back through the speaker in my voice, perfectly paced, like a recording. My hands went cold. I lowered the radio and forced myself to do something practical. Move toward visibility, camera zones, main corridors, anything with light and open lines of sight. No narrow stacks, no back hallways. At the next door, I scanned in and stepped through quickly. Before it could swing shut, I wedged it with a rubber door stop from my kit. Policy approved, the kind we used during service calls so we didn't get trapped by auto locks. A second later, somewhere ahead, a docker held open. Alarm chirped. Not behind me, ahead of me. From a door I hadn't reached yet. It beeped again, like it was calling me forward. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the work ticket and my stomach tightened. Room 3A wasn't there anymore. It said Room 3B, and the little map pin shifted deeper into the building like the system had decided I was already farther along. It wasn't tracking my location. It was correcting it. The pattern clicked into place. Doors relocking behind me. Logs changing without me touching them. Alarms sounding before I arrived. It felt like someone, human or not, was steering me farther in. I kept going anyway, but controlled. I stayed under cameras that still had red status lights. I avoided the roped-off shortcuts. The air got drier, warmer in that mechanical way, and the hum of dehumidifiers grew louder the deeper I went. I reached the rare books corridor, where carpet swallowed my footsteps, and the brass handles felt icy against my palm. A rolling ladder sat on its rail along the shelves. As my beam passed over it, the ladder shifted one rung by itself. Metal scraped softly, then it settled, perfectly still again. I didn't turn my back on it. I kept my light trained on the rungs as I moved toward the only door that matched the updated ticket. My breathing got shorter. My thoughts got simpler. Find the room, confirm the alarm, get out. I scanned in and pushed the door open. Inside, the room was colder than the corridor, like the HVAC had been fighting something. Dehumidifiers hummed in the corners, steady and indifferent. My flashlight picked up rows of locked cases and the dull shine of plastic humidity gauges. The thermostat was on the far wall. Or what should have been the thermostat. The cover plate was missing, screws exposed, the wiring cavity open like someone had peeled it apart with purpose. I stepped closer, keeping my shoulders tight, listening for movement that wasn't my own. Something pale was taped inside the cavity, a note. Plain, blocky letters, as if someone wanted it readable at a glance. You're not lost. For a second I couldn't move, my mouth went dry. The note wasn't a prank. It was a message meant for the exact moment I'd found it. Then the lights dropped. Not fully out, just a sudden shift to emergency mode that washed the room in a dim, greenish glow. 3 seconds. Long enough to feel the building change. Long enough to hear a soft scrape in the hallway outside, like metal against carpet. The normal light snapped back on. I didn't stay to troubleshoot. I didn't take a photo. I didn't touch the wiring. I backed out fast, pulled the door shut, and started moving toward the main hall with my flashlight up and my radio in my fist, ready to make noise the second someone appeared. I pushed back into the widest corridor I could find, where the ceiling was higher and the camera dome still had tiny red lights blinking. I didn't test another door. I walked straight to the after-hours desk phone and kept my voice calm while my hands shook. "Get someone to the main hall," I said. "I'm coming out." They told me to meet them at the closest exterior exit. I didn't argue. I headed for the side entrance and waited under the overhang, breathing cold Boston air that felt almost wet compared to the library's dry, conditioned heat. Security arrived first, then police. They went back in with flashlights and keys and swept the corridors. They found the thermostat cavity open, but the note was gone. Nobody admitted to touching it. Nobody could explain the camera light going dead, or my radio playing me back. The supervisor called me the next morning, voice careful. The access log showed my badge entering Room 3B at 1:29 a.m. Room 3B didn't exist on the directory, and I knew, quietly, stubbornly, that something had written that line on purpose. Saturday, April 19th, 2025, 3:11 a.m. I was 28, newly, hired, and on my first solo overnight at Geisel Library at UC San Diego. Finals week meant the building never really slept. Just thinned out until it felt like a different place. The last shift lead had walked me through the basics before midnight. After that, it was just me, my radio, and a schedule that said routine safety checks, like it was something you could do on the autopilot. Outside, La Jolla was quiet in that coastal way. Cool air, a light dampness that didn't turn into fog, and the occasional hiss of tires on the distant road. Inside, the library smelled like toner and warm plastic near the printer stations, mixed with old paper and whatever cleaning solution the day staff used. The air conditioning made a low, constant hum that you only noticed when you stopped moving. My radio earpiece had that faint hiss that never fully went away. Dispatch had me on a check-in timer that chirped every so often, a reminder to confirm I was fine. It wasn't comforting exactly, it was more like a metronome telling you time was passing whether you liked it or not. I did slow loops the way they taught me, main atrium first, then level 2, then the stairwell landings. Motion sensor lights popped on aisle by aisle as I walked, giving me a clean slice of visibility that moved with me and leaving everything behind in shadow again. Near one stairwell landing, an emergency phone blue beacon glowed steadily, like a tiny lighthouse stuck to a concrete wall. I rode the elevator once just to confirm it was working. The motor groaned like it was waking up, and the floor indicator flickered between numbers for a split second before settling. When the doors opened, the chime was soft, polite, too normal for how empty the building felt at 3 in the morning. On my way back through the lobby, I heard the book drop chute clang shut outside, metal on metal, a hollow sound that echoed through the entrance corridor. Someone returning books at 3 a.m. during finals wasn't unusual. It was exactly the kind of night where nothing was supposed to happen. The call came through as a dispatch assignment, not as an emergency. "Student welfare check," dispatch said, and my check-in timer reset like it always did when you got a task. The detail that stuck out was the source. No caller ID, just an internal extension number. Level 2. I told myself it was a student who didn't want to call from their own phone, or a staff member who didn't want to escalate it. Finals week made people weird. People fell asleep in corners. People had panic attacks in bathrooms. A welfare check didn't mean danger. It meant liability. Level 2 looked normal at first. Quiet, clean, too bright in places. The motion lights snapped on in sections as I moved, and the printer stations smelled faintly burnt, like warm plastic that had been running all night. I followed the direction dispatch gave me to a study area near the stacks. There was a backpack on a chair, an open laptop on a table, a half-empty water bottle. No student. The laptop screen showed a timer paused at 0 hours. Not a video, not music. Just a timer app sitting on 0 like it had been started and stopped at the exact same second. I waited, listened for breathing, for a bathroom door, for footsteps. Nothing. I called out a soft campus security like I'd been trained to. No response. My first rational thought was simple. The student stepped away. Bathroom, vending machine. A friend waved them over. The second thought was also rational. Somebody left their stuff and didn't want it stolen, so they asked security to check on it, as an excuse to get eyes in the area. Then the elevator arrived with the doors already open. It wasn't at my floor a moment earlier. I hadn't called it. It was just there, waiting, doors parted like it had been holding its breath. Above the panel, a door hold indicator stayed lit. I stared at it longer than I should have. It felt staged, like a suggestion. Get in. My radio hissed, and my check-in timer reset early, before I'd pressed anything. A voice came through, calm and familiar in tone, and used my last name. Ramirez, confirm location. Dispatch didn't use last names like that unless it was formal, unless something was wrong. I swallowed and answered anyway, trying to keep my voice even. Level 2, West Study Area, no contact yet. The earpiece hissed like someone exhaled directly into it. I stayed where I was for a beat, letting my eyes work. Backpack, laptop, timer at 0, elevator waiting with door hold, lit. None of it was proof, but together it made a shape. I moved closer to the table and looked for a student ID card, anything that made the situation normal again. The backpack was zipped. I didn't open it. Policy. I leaned just enough to see the laptop trackpad. No notifications, no open messages. The timer still at 0, like it was frozen there on purpose. Behind me, the motion lights started switching off faster than they should have. Normally, the darkness followed you at a polite delay. This time, the light behind my back snapped off almost immediately. shrinking my visible space into a narrow, forward-facing tunnel. It changed how my body felt. My shoulders tightened, my pace shortened. I hated that I couldn't see behind me without turning fully. I walked toward the stairwell landing on level 2, the one with the blue emergency phone beacon. If anything got weird, I wanted a fixed point, something designed to work without a cell signal. The beacon blinked once. Then the blue glow went dead. I pressed the emergency phone button anyway. The plastic felt worn, as if it had been used too often. Nothing clicked, no dial tone, no voice, just the quiet hum of the building and the faint whir of distant ventilation. A minute later, the intercom crackled. Not dispatch, not my radio, the building intercom. A maintenance voice came on, casual, like it was a normal after-hours handoff. Security to service level for lost property pickup. It used the exact phrasing staff used during day shifts. Lost property, pickup, service level, like someone had studied the script. My first rational thought was the one that almost got me moving. Maybe there really was lost property connected to the welfare check. Maybe staff found the student's phone or ID down below. The second rational thought was darker. Maybe someone wanted me off level 2 because they didn't want their stuff reported. A student didn't want trouble, so they tried to redirect me, but the elevator was still open, waiting. Door holds still lit, and my check-in timer reset again without me pressing anything, like the building was tapping my shoulder. Keep going. I did what I should have done earlier. I called dispatch and asked them to verify the internal extension and the intercom instruction. My radio crackled. Then my own question came back at me, delayed by half a second, like a bad echo. Verify the extension. Verify the extension. That's when I stopped treating it like coincidence. Someone was inside the system. Phones, elevators, intercom, my check-ins. It didn't matter whether it was one person or two. It didn't matter if it was a prank or a setup. The mechanism was the same. Keep me moving. Keep me in a loop where I was always reacting. I made my decision right there. Leave and create noise. I refused the service level. I moved back toward the main atrium. Glass, cameras, open sight lines. As I passed the stairwell landing, I grabbed the emergency bar and yanked hard enough to trigger the alarm. The sound changed the entire building. A loud, persistent wail that didn't belong to finals week, didn't belong to quiet study. It belonged to attention. I spoke into my radio, louder now, not caring who heard me. Possible internal tampering. I'm moving to the atrium, send campus police. I didn't run yet, I walked fast. I wanted my steps to sound deliberate, not panicked. I wanted whoever was playing with the lights and phones to know the script had broken. Then I saw movement near the elevator bank. Not one person, two. They rushed me the moment I hit the wide corridor by the elevators. Not sprinting like in movies. Fast, controlled, like they'd done it before. I saw one on the left, one cutting in from the right, using the pillars and the light breaks like they understood exactly where the cameras didn't angle. My mouth went dry. My hands were cold around the flashlight. I didn't try to talk. Talking was time. I threw my flashlight down the corridor as hard as I could. It clattered and spun, the beam flashing wildly across the wall, across the floor, across their legs. Bright, confusing, drawing eyes. For half a second, both of them looked toward it. That half second was enough. I turned and ran for the atrium, my shoes slapped tile. The motion lights popped on ahead of me in blocks like the building was deciding whether to help or betray me. The alarm was still screaming, and it made me feel less alone. I hit the public exit near the glass and shoved the emergency bar. The exit alarm detonated. Another layer of noise, sharper, more urgent. The doors unlocked with a heavy click that felt like permission. I yelled for campus police until my throat hurt. Not a speech, just words that carried, "Now, in the atrium." Behind me, I heard quick steps stop short, like the two people didn't want to cross into the most visible space. Like they'd already gotten what they wanted and the noise ruined the rest. I didn't look back. I kept moving through the unlocked doors and into the cold air outside. Campus police arrived fast once the alarms started stacking. They found me outside the entrance, breathing too hard, radio still hissing in my ear. They didn't treat it like a misunderstanding. They walked me back just far enough to get my statement, then pulled me out again and locked the building down until sunrise. They did a sweep. Elevators, service stairs, printer stations, level 2. They found the backpack and the open laptop. No student, no ID, no obvious break-in. The timer on the laptop was still paused at Ikusu, like it had been waiting. I handed over my body cam the way policy required. I wanted the footage to make it simple. 2 people, a direction of travel, a clear moment where they were in frame. Later, when the supervisor reviewed it, he called me into the office and didn't sit down. He just stood there with the camera playback open, looking uncomfortable. The video existed, the picture was clean. But from 3:12 a.m. to 3:19 a.m., the audio track was completely silent. No alarm, no footsteps, no radio, no shouting. 7 full minutes of perfect video with the sound removed, like someone had reached in and muted the world. If you have a true story you want featured on The Wrong Silence, send it to thewrongsilenceagemail.com.